Good morning, good evening, good afternoon, everybody, and welcome back to another episode of the F124 Driver Career Mode here in the Haas F1 team in our first season on the backs of a sprint weekend in Austria that saw us come with 2 second place finishes for our first podiums of our career, as well as a Grand Prix pole position. We are now headed to the historic circuit of Silverstone. Back to a normal race weekend format, so just qualifying and the race. A track that the AI is usually fairly strong at, so expecting maybe a little bit of a fall back into the pack, but trying to ride the momentum that we've had so far. Taking a look at the quick weather indicators, it looks like qualifying and the race you can see on screen, both looking to be nice and sunny. So no weather should be coming into play as far as we can tell here, but let's take a look at the rest of the messages and see if there's anything else for us. So let's see if there's anything interesting. Verstappen still leading the Drivers' Championships. We are down in P10, so making some moves. Weather-wise, looks to be sunny throughout the race and just a little bit of clouds coming our way for the qualifying session. Still need to average some decent speed and incur no more than 3 penalties. We have moved ahead of our target for the season by 1 in our overall ratings, and we are still just shy of the Visa Cash App RB team in terms of the performance chart. Pretty decent split between the top 5 teams and the bottom 5 teams. So we're going to be looking to try and bridge that gap maybe a little later in the season. Once again, getting the fresher engine components, the practice components out of the car and the better components into the car. As usual, my rule is 50% is when it becomes a practice component. But let's head over to qualifying.
A one-time airfield fully owned by cars in this era. One of the finest ribbons of racetrack anywhere on Earth. It's high speed, it's dramatic, it's Silverstone.
So here we are winding up for our first qualifying run here around Silverstone. Headed to turn 1, flat out right-hander. A little wide of the apex on that one. Could have tried to aim for a little more curbing now down into turns 3 and 4 into the loop. Tricky rotation for turn 4 now. We head on to the next straight. Over on the way into the combination, the left-right. Brooklyn's left field, long corners, but just about this 50-meter board. Try and late apex and then try and get the car rotated for left field until you can just about see the exit and then get on the loud pedal through the right-handed kink as we come up to Copse, the old pit straight. Fast, high-speed flick in, just a dab of downshift. Don't actually lift the throttle on that one. You just use the downshifting to put it into a better bend now. Maggots, Beckett's, and then into Chapel, and open the DRS for the second time of the lap. We go purple in the middle sector, it looks like, at least according to the track map, but now headed up to Stowe, just about the outside, curbing there, breakdown, try and get the car rotated to the inside, and now for the Vale chicane, get the car slowed down, a little too much curb on the inside, upsets the rear of the car as we come through the final corner, flat out as soon as we get to the power. And we do go fastest temporarily overall, 27.302 with our first run, although not many cars have finished a run just yet. So jumping out on circuit for the final runs, we are actually sitting P5, so a pretty good run for our first qualifying run has put us once again on the strength of some momentum amongst the lead pack. So another good qualifying result might put us once again with an opportunity to try and fight for some podiums. Again, it's another track that we spent a fair bit of time on in league racing in history, but the AI has usually done quite well around here with its high speed. Now, maybe a different characteristic this year, but just try and turn the best laps we can. We can see as drivers are finishing their laps, we've now shuffled down to P8. The checkered flag is now out and waving. We'll see where we end up. Gets shuffled, pushed down by the McLaren of Oscar Piastri down to P9. Holding P9 at the moment. We found about a quarter of a second, though, through the first sector, nearly about to hit the end of the second sector. Decent exit there. He should be gaining all the way down the straight. So personal best through the first 2 sectors. P9 at the moment. Looks like there's one Mercedes still to finish a lap ahead of us. Can we get a good run through Stowe? Decent run. Find another couple hundredths of a second. Now the Vale chicane where we definitely lost some time. Stroll goes ahead of us as we're now down into P9, or Perez, I think that might have been. Through the final corner, we find about a half a second. So about another 2/10 in the final sector, and we get another front row start. Back-to-back races on the front row, this time Silverstone.
Qualifying wrapped up. We now have our grid line
In
up for the
fact,
big
we
race
only
tomorrow.
go
Be sure
less
to join
than a
us then
10th
for what will no
from
doubt
pole
be a
position.
fantastic
6
race.
hundredths of a second, the margin to Lando Norris, and Max Verstappen 8 hundredths of a second to pole position. So very tight at the front. Nico Hülkenberg once again, lucky number 13. Hopefully we can see, maybe this time he can work his way up the grid, although he is right there with the cash app of Danny Rick, so around where we would expect the car to be.
Britain is one of only 2 countries to have held a Grand Prix in every year of the Formula One World Championship. Long may it continue. It is a circuit of speed, history and drama. It's Silverstone, it's the British Grand Prix. Straddling the border of Northamptonshire and Buckinghamshire, the 18 corners of Silverstone Circuit form the 3.6-mile beating heart of Formula One. It's been reinvented over the years with Turn 1, now the fast right-hander of Abbey, but the magic of racing is as strong here as it's ever been. So with the race not far away from starting, here's what today's grid rundown looks like. Lando Norris put in a fantastic lap yesterday, and he will start from pole position. An old-timer completes the front row. As we continue through the rest of the grid today, we have Verstappen, Leclerc, Russell, Oscar Piastri, Sainz, Fernando Alonso, Perez, Stroll, Hamilton, Ricciardo, Hülkenberg, Albon, Ocon, Tsunoda, Gasly, Bottas, Joe, and Logan Sargent. That's it then. It's time to go racing as we head down trackside for today's race. Welcome to the commentary box. I'm Alex Shakes. Alongside me, a real authority on all things motor racing. It's a warm welcome back to Anthony Davidson. Now, those final hours before a race, did you have a routine?
Well, for them, you've got your pre-race rituals that you go through. You see different drivers that, some have got their headphones on, they're listening to the music. Some drivers really absorb the energy from the crowd and they're there waving to them. Other drivers, they go within themselves. They chat to their engineers, absorbing that information, that vital information that you need to carry you through the race. And, those pre-race rituals are essential to making things systematic. We do a lot of Grand Prix in a season, and the more systematic you can be, the easier you are within that environment.
Here we are on the grid, taking a look at the strategies. Looks to be a soft to medium race. Maybe go in the alternate direction on the medium first, then getting on the quick softs at the end. Alternate strategy is definitely an option around here. The undercut has been very powerful, though, in F124, so it's kind of hard to give up that track position. So we are just going to go with the soft on to medium. Of course, dial in the fuel right to where we get the number 4 from our practice session. And here we are, the 5 red lights coming up. Once again, Norris ahead, Verstappen behind, a little bit slow on the reaction, and that's going to be Leclerc and Verstappen both making their way through. We've got to just tuck in as they go side by side in front of us, and we go from second to fourth relatively quickly in this one, but it's going to be important not to panic. These two fighting side by side will give us plenty of road to work with because we've also got Russell and Piastri side by side right behind us. And now we're starting to filter into a single file sort of row. And we've got our car up in the hot lap mode, doing a little bit of lifted coast into turn, what's that, 6? 5? Brooklands? I know it by its name a lot better. And then Luffield and getting on the power. So we have an opportunity to try and save a little bit of fuel at certain points around this track, and of course, use the overtake where we can. Verstappen looking to be going for the lead of the race up the inside of Lando Norris there, but not quite getting alongside. Now Leclerc having a run as we head into Maggots and Beckett's. That's going to slow them both down a bit. We're a little wide through Beckett's there and have to kind of gather the car up. Russell ahead of Piastri behind us, and now a good overtaking opportunity once the DRS is enabled is going to be Stowe. Late moves, late lunges, not a hard braking zone, but it's enough to really get a run, especially if you can follow nice and close through the S's. And if you can at least get alongside, you might be able to have a little run down into the Vale chicane at the end of the lap and try and make a late little lunge there. But Lando Norris leads the first lap of the race. We fall 2 places down to P4. And DRS is now enabled for this one. 26 lap race, expecting it to be dry the whole way through. Should be a pretty straightforward strategic race at the 50% distance. But now it's going to be all about managing our battery, managing our fuel, managing our DRS, keeping an eye as looks like a decent run for the Mercedes behind, starting to make a little ground up there. This is one of those tracks where we can run pretty consistently in hot lap mode, as it looks like Russell trying to go around the outside of us in left field here. And that's mostly we leave it in hot lap mode to make sure we're not spending too much time recovering battery at the end of the straights. We keep that deploying there and allow the braking and lifting to generate our battery power instead of the derating at the end of the straight. So it will be kind of a flick on, flick off kind of thing based on what our battery state of charge is, but we are starting to lose a little bit of touch to the lead pack, so need to get the head down, be a little more focused, and try and catch back up. Looks for like the Ferrari goes into the lead of the race ahead. McLaren having a little look of Piastri to the inside of George Russell, but not going to quite make a move stick there. And once again, we get into the failed chicane. We tended to be pretty good on the brakes into the chicane compared to the AI. So there was time to be gained there, but through these high-speed corners, especially on exit, it's definitely having to look in the rearview mirror quite a bit at the early stages, as George Russell would definitely not lose the opportunity to go for a lunge if he could. But we've managed to close back up to the back end of the Red Bull of Max Verstappen in P3. And we should have a nice dose of DRS to help us out on the way down into Brooklands. McLaren re-overtaking the Ferrari down into the left-hander, and job looked to be done as far as I can tell, and indeed it is. So the front two leapfrogging positions at this stage of the race as we try and cling on to this battle. Looks like we may have overperformed our qualifying position based on just how difficult, and even with these two fighting in front of us, how hard it is to hang on to the back of this DRS train. So, hey, the more they fight, the more I appreciate it because it keeps me in the mix. But it's only a matter of time, I think, before the Mercedes of George Russell is going to be in a position to really have a go at me. And he's quite a bit nose to tail as we head down the hangar straight this time. But again, with our DRS dose, he's going to hang right back. We're going to jump ahead now, lap 7 of 26. We're still hanging out in the same position now. Verstappen trying to make a move on Leclerc. We're a little bit wide through Stowe. That's going to allow Russell to get the outside line. We are going to brake very late into the Vale chicane, though. A little bit of a lockup. He's trying to switch it back on us as we went a little bit deep into the left-hander, but we managed to just about hold on and, in fact, finish a engine temperature objective. 140.9, a lot easier to manage than the 131 in the last episode. But we managed to recover plenty of fuel. We're now almost 0.3 of a lap in the green. So we don't really have to worry too much about lifting and coasting. In fact, the more we have to do it by following the cars ahead, the more weight we're just going to be carrying around for the rest of the race. But up in the top 5, not a bad spot to be in as we're starting to creep our way towards the halfway point of this race, a little over a quarter of the way in, and there's quite the DRS train that has formed pretty much all of the field, excluding a couple of cars. But that front left tire really taking a beating now. You can see 34% wear on that front left. So many high-speed left-handers. Of course, Copse, which we just went through. Magnus Beckett's Chapel. Turn 1, which is Village? Village, I think is the name. I'm blanking. And then, of course, Stowe at the end of this straight. So heavy times leaning on that front left tire, and it makes the job very difficult. And we're starting to get to a phase where we're starting to really struggle with that front leg. You can see, again, going a bit wider through Stowe, not quite hanging on. And, of course, there's always the opportunity to lock up on the way into the Vale chicane. And it's, again, that front left tire that takes the pain in that situation. So starting to have to think about tiptoeing that tire to maintain pace, open the corners up as much as possible, and just get to that pit stop. We obviously don't want to stop too early, otherwise we'll just basically be in the same situation later in the race, but on the medium tire. And I don't think the hard tire is going to be quite quick enough to be involved with this race so much as we'd like it to be. George Russell getting a pretty good run there, but we're going to jump ahead. Again, lap 10, yellow flags in the area. Who is the cause of it? It looks to be somewhere in the pack behind us, and somebody has pulled off the side. Looks like a Ferrari indeed. Carlos Sainz out of the session in this one, 10 laps into this 26-lap race. And that is a Ferrari out of this one, a DNF for the Scarlet team, and that is unfortunate as they have another car literally in the lead of the race. There has been a little bit of a shuffle of order. As you can see, Norris now has fallen behind Verstappen, but the top three really just kind of switching and swapping around throughout this race as we tended to try and hold off Russell. Alonso now behind him, as it looks like the McLaren of Piastri has also fallen behind the other Red Bull of Sergio Perez. And now we have Max Verstappen going into the lead of the race. Leclerc all the way down to P3 as Norris gets through as well. So a lot of that going on at the opening stages as just the front three are running so close to each other that they're swapping positions around with relative ease in this one. But again, that gives us the opportunity to stay with this pack, even though we may not necessarily have the out-and-out pace if we started to get a little strung out and not have that DRS help. You can see all over the back of the Ferrari this time, maybe thinking of sizing up a move coming up soon. Opportunity might be there and available to us. We'll see. And an interesting objective given at this point. Overtake Verstappen, who's in the lead of this race, 3 positions ahead of me. And unless they do a big old swap-a-rooney of this group ahead of me, probably not going to happen. But hey, we'll do what we can. 46% wear on that front left. Not great. Tire is really hurting. I think we were looking to go to lap 12 for the pit stop, so one more lap should do it. Maybe an opportunity to pull the trigger a lap early, but I'm so worried about those medium tires lasting to the end as well. I think they're pretty even when it comes to the overall wear profile between the two sets of tires. Again, moves going on up front. McLaren through Ferrari trying to get around the outside of Max Verstappen. Little contact between the two. And that's going to be a little bit of a slow run out of Stowe for Leclerc. We're going to lunge down the inside into the Vale chicane. We get the inside and up a position. We now make some hay out of that open daylight and indeed move up into the podium places. A little coming together between Verstappen and Leclerc. A little bit of robbed momentum as a result of it. And that gives us just the slightest opening and the overspeed in order to utilize probably our strongest section of the track compared to the AI, the braking into the Vale chicane, and make a move up into P3. So still have that objective to try and get past Verstappen. Maybe he'll do the same to Norris ahead. Side by side, they're going into Brooklands there. And is he going to get the job done? No, they're still side by side. As they fight through Luffield, Norris maintains the lead over Verstappen. Maybe a little bit of an opportunity to close up to the back of them and have a go at the top 2 positions. But we do have Leclerc absolutely on our gearbox. It's a little wide there through Copse that time. We head into Maggots and Beckett's, and now it's all about setting up for the final exit here to carry as much speed as you can down the final big straight. Rear wing opens up. Verstappen closing to the back of the McLaren. Doesn't look like he's going to quite get there for any kind of move this time. And indeed just stays right on the gearbox of the McLaren. And into the pit lane comes all of the top 4. And big lockups from everybody. So everybody having the move at the same time. No undercuts for any of them. The overcut, not really a good move in. Our longest pit lane of the season. It takes forever to get the job done in this pit lane. It actually still, after several years, has a slower than real life pit lane speed limit. so it takes so much longer. So looking for a gap to come out, and we'll come out back in the gap we went in. We went in. Yep, that's correct. And it looks like we are going to drop pretty much towards the back of the field, but it will sort itself out as we release the pit limiter and get back up to speed. And the toughest part of pretty much any race usually is this pit window, because as we know, the AI basically gets the tires to be the tires right away. We have to bring them into temperature, which sometimes takes a little bit. Silverstone runs the hardest compounds of tire available, so they take even a little bit longer to get warmed up. But looks like we've had a good enough run out of the pit box to stay with Verstappen. He's actually a little wide through left field there, but rear end still unstable as rear tires very cold, and that allows quite the acceleration for Verstappen. But we're going to burn some battery, make sure we close up to the back of him. Unlike qualifying, we are not flat out through cops here. We are a lift, a downshift, and maintain some speed. But Verstappen has actually lost a bit of touch to Lando Norris. So there's an opportunity, if he's not able to close up, that we could get close to the back of the Red Bull and go for P2 on him. But he still has another lap or so to really make that happen. The rest of the field diving into the pits. So even though we are P12 at the moment, very deep into the Vale chicane. Big mistake there. You can see we've lost about 7/10 of a second, 6/10. It's a pretty huge time loss there. So not an ideal situation. But we are running P3. Leclerc does have the fastest lap point at the moment. Has run the fastest lap of the race down there in P4. We are just getting on to our first flying lap on the new tires. So it is an opportunity for that fastest lap to change. DRS available to us as we're about a half second back and set the fastest first sector of the race on this one. So definitely some good pace, but again, need to get right up to the back of Max Verstappen in order to try and get by him. Maybe use that DRS to slingshot and close up to within a second of Lando Norris too. He's only about 3/10 off of Lando, or 1.3 rather, 3/10 off of being inside DRS range. So that would be the key. But here we are setting up for a run at Verstappen through Maggotts Beckett's. Rear wing flips open. Battery is being absolutely dumped. And here comes the run up the inside. 1.2, 1.1, the gap to Lando Norris. If we can have a good final sector, we might actually be able to get the DRS on Norris. A little deep into the Vale chicane, though. Another mistake there, and that's going to cost us the timing. As you can see, we've lost about 3/10 of a second. We do set the fastest lap of the race as a result of the overspeed, but now quite low on battery. Nothing to really burn to try and make up that extra 1/10 of a second that we need on Lando Norris. So the lunge to try and get on to the gearbox of the leader is going to come up just a little bit shy. If we had had a good run through the Vale chicane, probably could have pulled it off, but now battery very low. Here comes Verstappen up the inside. Going to try and fight him around the outside because we are going to get the inside into left field. But battling with Verstappen just means that Lando is going to have the advantage. Now still side by side as we head to cops. We are going to get clear of Verstappen, move up there, and make sure he doesn't go for any kind of lunge into the fast right-hander. So trying to find spots to gain some battery, but yeah, 1.4 the gap now, 1.5 the gap to Lando Norris. So we weren't able to quite lunge through, and now we are under heavy pressure from Verstappen and Leclerc behind. In hot lap mode, so we're not recharging at the end of this straight when the AI tends to. Verstappen round the outside of Stowe and is going to get that position back. A little bit of a thought of trying to go for a lunge up the inside, but we decide to think better of it. Let's slot in. Let's see if Verstappen can try it again and make some headway into Lando's lead. 10 laps left to go in this race at lap 16 of 26. And maybe we can go to close up on them and get back to an attacking the leader type position. Current objective is to charge ERS, which we needed to do anyway. We were running very low on our battery, so an easy choice to just keep the car in a mode that will eventually get it recharged. We have 3 laps up the inside. Leclerc, though, having a bit of a look, and he's got some serious speed. Big contact there as he tries to force us out wide through Brooklands, but as we finish the objective, we are able to once again pull ahead of Charles Leclerc. He's got another good run headed down the old pit straight, but once again, we hold him off, and we are once following back in the wheel tracks of Max Verstappen for these top positions of this race. And another podium would be pretty good to go back-to-back podiums in a car that's technically, essentially best of the midfield, but definitely a track I'm comfortable with. Not going to go for the move here. Going to just tuck in, get some battery charged back up. Wasn't really going to benefit me too much to take that position off of Verstappen. I felt comfortable to not being attacked from Leclerc into that corner, so I was able to just hold station, and now we're just going to try and build our battery up as much as possible and then go for an all-out attack a little later. We're going to jump ahead, lap 18 of 26 now, though, as Leclerc going to the inside. We try and go defensive, but he gets deeper inside. He's actually slid into the side of us and pushes us out wide, just forces us. And we make some contact now, nose to tail with Leclerc. But a little bit of a rude maneuver from Leclerc, made quite a bit of contact, robbed us of quite a bit of momentum, and takes the position as a result of it. A very NASCAR-type move, something that in a real F1 car would certainly result in quite a bit of problems with that amount of touching. Car would not appreciate it as much as a video game version of it does. But alas, we're down into P4, so back to where we were at the start of the race after we lost those positions from the very beginning, after our poor get off the line. We'll see if Verstappen and Leclerc squabble again, give us another opportunity to try and get back ahead of the Ferrari, but until then, we do have a 4.4 second gap to George Russell behind. So not a huge issue to worry about. And it's just going to be about trying to stick with this group ahead of us. And where's our teammate? He looks to be kind of at the back of the pack, so not really in position to be getting points at this stage unless something serious happens, as we're getting close to about 6.5 laps left to go in this one. It's going to take quite the miracle for Nico to be scoring some points, and now it's starting to look like the pace is increasing amongst the cars ahead of me, and I'm going to have to start burning some battery in order to stay with them. Not so much help in the slipstream because we're falling nearly a second back, but we do have a decent downforce setup compared to the AI, so we should make up some ground here as we do. About a 10th through Cops, and now Maggots, Beckett's make up a little bit more time.
Battery charge is high. Let's use that overtake button a bit more.
Taking a little glance to see what's behind us. 4.6 the gap to Russell back there now, so nothing really to worry about. Contact again between Verstappen and Leclerc through Stowe, but Verstappen manages to stay ahead. Another little jump ahead, lap 21 of 26, so about 2 more laps further ahead. And Leclerc smoking, and he's going to be right on the apex of the corner as we have to take avoiding action. And that's actually, I think, going to cost us our DRS to Verstappen. We do manage to hold it for the time being, but we are going to have to burn quite a bit of battery to try and stay with Verstappen. Unfortunate for Leclerc at this stage of the race to have that engine go pop. Of course, we've experienced 2 engine failures so far ourselves this season, but it's definitely turning into a tough task to stay with Verstappen. Now, looks like he's managed to pull fully off the side of the road, and we're not going to have a safety car involved. And Norris has just bolted. He's had a good race. And now Lando sits 3.3 seconds out ahead of the crew in the lead of this race. We do have the opportunity to try and do what we couldn't do in Austria against Verstappen. Chase him down, save some battery, and then make a move in the dying stages of the race to try and take a position off him. Of course, this time it won't be for the sprint or race win, but it would be for another solid P2 finish. Alonso 5.9 has gotten ahead of Russell, but again, that group is continuing to fall further back from us every lap. So jumping ahead, start of the final lap of the race. Now 9.7 seconds back to Russell. So sticking in the wheel tracks of Verstappen, we've really been able to tear away from that chasing group. Verstappen, I think, just holding onto his tires a little bit better than us, as we're nearly a second back, as we managed to hold on quite a bit of battery. DRS, we still have one more opportunity. We set the fastest first sector of the race. We're really pushing on. We do have the fastest lap still of the race at this stage that we set in our last time pursuing Verstappen. But burning battery, there's going to be really one big opportunity. If we can make a good run through Copse, through Maggots and Beckett's, which we're a little closer than we had been through Copse, and he's actually starting to have to harvest some energy at this last little bit of the lap. So he's overburned it just a bit too much in the early stages. Not a great run. In fact, a little bit wide. Track limits warning. But here we are. DRS open. Battery dumping. He is charging, so he's got nothing left in the tank. We go past Max Verstappen on the way into Stowe. We've got a little bit of battery left to play down into the Vale chicane. Hard on the brakes. Verstappen, no answer for us as we come through the final corner. Just don't dump it here. Get on the throttle nice and smoothly, and through we go for another P2 finish.
Okay, good job, mate. Really, really well done. That was a fantastic drive. Bring it home.
Well, they've done a brilliant job, I must say, under some intense pressure to take a well-earned victory here at the British Grand Prix.
A great team victory today. That's the important bit here. On home soil, the drivers delivered, the team delivered as well, and to do that in front of their home support really means a lot to them.
As the winners make their way up to the podium, one can only imagine the celebrations that will take place at McLaren tonight. Congratulations to everyone on the team, securing the win and proving they're a force to be reckoned with out on the track.
Another race, another podium. This time Lando Norris standing on the top step of it, though Verstappen still there in P3, helping to maintain his championship lead. Still scoring the points he needs, although it looks like the chasing pack is starting to get a little bit more involved in this one. And considering our car's development, we are starting to move ahead of the following pack. However, it's only a matter of time, I think, before
I'm equal
we start
parts
to get
exhausted
into a
and
little bit
elated
of
with this
trouble when
weekend
we
of
get to
Formula
tracks
One.
we're not
Be
so
sure to join
comfortable
us for the next one.
Nico Hülkenberg dropping a position just like he did in Austria, down to P14 from P13, so another lost spot for him, trying to get him into the points paying positions, but that is a huge jump and actually really launches a lot closer in the Drivers' Championship to P9 and Oscar Piastri. 14 points left to close up to him, and we are distancing ourselves very rapidly from the Aston Martin of Lance Stroll. Of course, still unlikely to catch Aston in the Constructors because of the strength of Alonso's season so far up at the top of the championship fight. Quite a few upgrades in the pipeline. Hopefully we get some serious upgrades coming in, big improvements in our driver performance as well. So looking forward to the next couple of races coming up, see if we can continue to move forward. We do have some time to select our specialists. So qualify P13 or above, riding high on that, even though qualifying is not my strong suit. 10 laps, easy. 50 seconds in fifth gear, easy. Perfect a practice program during the weekend, easy. It'll be the race sim program. So we're up to 72 in our overall score. We do hit our tier in championship points, going to tier 2. So we've cleared 50 championship points in our season. We've officially won our rivalry against Lance Stroll, and you can see the big upturn over the last 2 races, thanks to the strong performances. Very, very helpful. So let's take a look at the development, see if we can afford anything. 431 points available to us right now. We do have, I believe, some points on the way in if we advance time. Question is, do I want to spend it on these durability upgrades, or do I want to spend it save them and spend them on performance-based upgrades. This is only 115, cheap enough. We'll give it a shot. And we'll take a look and see. So a lot of upgrades in the pipeline. Nose cone structure, energy store, magnetic compound. Magnetic compound fails, which is not ideal. And also energy store improved materials fails. So only one of the upgrades manages to get to the car, which is not super helpful at this stage. But we will see what the other teams do as we get ready to head over to the Hungarian Grand Prix, a high downforce track. So we're still at 418. I don't think I can afford anything. Really eyeing those tire blankets, but we will redevelop the magnetic compound for the ERS. We want that battery power as soon as we can get it, but with Hungary and Belgium being so close back to back, unlikely to get there quite in time. But thank you all for joining me once again. Another strong performance, and let's see if we can do it again as we head to the Hungarian Grand Prix next. I'll catch you guys next time. Thank you so much. Peace.